To Site Visibility's webinar, 9 Simple Steps to Setting Up Google Analytics Like a Pro. I'm Scott, Site Visibility's Product Manager, and you've got John here today, our Technical SEO Specialist and GA Specialist. Say hello, John.
Hi, guys.
So we're going to run through today a webinar that talks through the steps of 9 simple steps for setting up Google Analytics Like a Pro. It ties in with a guide that we launched recently. If you haven't downloaded the guide yet, it's non-essential. You'll still understand in this webinar today the steps. And also you'll be able to download the guide afterwards and use a combination of the video from today's webinar and the guide together. How we'll be working today is I'll introduce each section, so each step, and then John here will be going through each step and demonstrating to you the different configuration options. You'll have a chance to ask any questions at the end. So yeah, we'll pick all those up right at the end, but feel free to drop in your questions throughout. And if it's okay with you guys, I'm just going to run and get started. I'm just going to ask quickly, can you all hear us okay? Is there any problems there? Can't see anything popping up, so I'm going to carry on. So we're going to start up with views, and more specifically, backup and test views. So we'll use the terms backup and unfiltered interchangeably throughout, and then we'll talk about test views as well. So firstly, your backup or your unfiltered view, that's your safeguarding measure in analytics. You'll probably never touch it, but it's just there just in case you ever need a full backup of data. For example, if someone accidentally deletes your main reporting view, or you have any issues with configuration changes, you've always got that backup to go to. And test views are a little bit different. They're your playground. We're going to talk a lot about test views today, and we're going to do a lot of our demonstration in the test view. So really, I just encourage you to get a test view set up, and John's going to show you how to do that. And get in the mindset of always testing new configurations on your test view before putting them live. And also labeling. Labeling is super important when it comes to views as well, and John's going to show you how to do all this.
Thanks, Scott. I'm going to dive straight into the admin section of Google Analytics. The site we're going to play with today is VisiBiz. It's not a functioning business. It's an old legacy site I built some time ago. But happily, it's had Google Analytics tracking on it for some time, so it's collected a wealth of interesting data that we're also going to look at in this webinar. So you want to step into your view settings, and what most of you are likely to find is that you've only got one view set up, and that view is called All Website Data. That leaves you somewhat exposed should you make a misconfiguration or something should happen to that data. You have no backup. Should you wish to make any changes to your GA account and test things out, if you apply these to the settings and you get it wrong, you have effectively messed up your data. Not a great idea. So what we're going to do straight away is click on the view drop-down arrow here, and we're going to, first off, we're going to relabel this default view as follows. We're going to include the name of the website, the full URL, and then so we know exactly which view we're looking at, because we're going to have 3 by the time we finish this. We're going to label it the master. We're not going to get into the settings below here at this point. All we're going to do is save this. So we see success. We're going to jump back into admin, back into our views, and we've got the option here to create a new view, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So it's going to be a website using the same labeling as Scott has previously referenced. This is extremely important should other people be looking at your GA account.
So whilst you're doing this, John, I'll just explain something, is that it doesn't matter the size of your company, whether you've got loads of different offices and analytics accounts, or you're just a one-man band. We recommend that this concept of the unfiltered test and master labeling and view setup is configured across all of your analytics accounts, regardless of their size.
Perfect. So now we've set up the test view, and finally we're going to create the unfiltered view. Oops, typo.
You've got your first typo under your belt now. That's good.
Hope so. Okay, and then we'll create that view. Perfect. So now when we look in our view settings, we should have 3 views. Your master view, that's the one you use for your day-to-day reporting and you do your analysis from. Your test view, that's your playground, as Scott referenced. And your unfiltered view, and that is exactly what it says on the tin. It just sits there collecting data. You don't apply any filters or any settings to it whatsoever. That's your backup.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Yep. So, like I said, you'll have the chance to follow up and run through. But if you do want to run through or just experiment whilst you're on the webinar today, feel free to go and set up a test view as we're talking now, and just start exploring the different options as we talk about them throughout. The next section that we're going to go on to talking about is excluding data that you don't want to enter your analytics account in a number of different ways. So, just for example, a couple of the key points we're going to talk about: spam traffic. And we're also going to talk about excluding yourself. So, you're always on your own website experimenting, and maybe you've got a bigger business and you've got multiple staff members who are frequently accessing your website. Well, unless you exclude those visits, all of those visits get recorded in your Google Analytics data, and it skews your metrics a little bit. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is exclusion filters. And this is essentially a way to stop any traffic making it into your account. You can apply exclusion filters at an account level or at a view level, and John's just going to talk you through the process of setting up a filter to exclude your own IP address.
Perfect, thanks Scott. So stage 1, we've now got 3 views, and as we've referenced, you always want to be doing this first of all on your test view. So just drop into the settings there in the top left and select your test view. Okay. Now we're going to select the filter section within the view settings, and we're going to add a simple filter, which in this instance is going to exclude us, that's site visibility, from the VisiBiz data. So you click Add Filter, and we're going to call this, again, you want explicit labeling. This is very important for anyone else but yourself who needs to understand the account. So we're going to call this one Exclude.
Yeah, the mentality I'd keep here, and just any labeling in analytics, is always spell out exactly what you're trying to do, so that anyone else new to the account can always just quickly understand exactly what the filters or segments are that you've set up. So labeling is super important.
He says labeling is super important. Well, we're not going to worry too much about the typo.
Yeah. We've got a bit of screen glare here, so we can't see some of the typos.
Yeah. What we're going to do, I'm way back from the screen. What we're going to do here is use the predefined filter type, and here we're going to select it. So we're just going to say we want to exclude, and then we want to say that we want to exclude traffic from IP addresses. That's what we're going to use as the key to set the filter. And then we're just going to say that are equal to a value. So you're probably asking yourself, well, how do I find out my IP address? This is something you can easily do literally by typing into Google, what's my IP? And that's going to give you your IP address. Once you've got that, you can copy and paste it straight into the filter. And that's what I'm going to do. One thing that you do need to be aware of here is this only works for static IPs. That means your IP address is fixed, and ours is. That means it never changes. If your IP address does change, then you may have to consider other measures aside from this exclude filter to prevent your hits from being recorded in Google Analytics. Now, a quick note here, there's a filter verification feature, and this works great for other filters, but it doesn't work for IP address filters, which it says here. So just be aware this won't work. But for any other filters, this is a good way of actually checking to see if the filter will work correctly or not. Okay, we're just going to save that on the test view. Perfect. And I think what we can actually do now is we can demo this in action. So let me just refresh this real-time report page, which is another great setting in Geo, great report that allows you to see the live traffic on your site. And I'm going to set this to the unfiltered view, and I'm going to visit VisiBiz.
So what we're doing here, guys, is the unfiltered view is where John hasn't configured a filter. So in theory, what we should see here is we should see our visit showing in a second. But then when we move back, and it's actually just appearing as I'm
there
talking,
we go. That's us.
well rehearsed.
Yeah.
But when we move back to our filtered view, if John's configured it correctly, it shouldn't show anything. Sorry, when we go back to our master view.
Sorry. So I'm just going to now switch back to our master view. Sorry, it's our test view that we set the filter on. Yeah. And you can see that we're excluded. And that is effectively how you use an exclude filter to block your internal traffic, your third-party agencies, your developer, anyone else that's working on your site that is not your user. That's it.
Excellent. And what we're going to move on to next is excluding a different type of traffic, but that causes your data to be skewed as equally as your own if you're messing about with your own website, and that's spam traffic. I'm just going to break down the two primary types of spam traffic. They're referral spam and ghost spam. Now, referral spam are bots and spiders that do actually visit your site, but they're non-human, so they leave non-human-like interactions. That causes inflation of bounce rate and things like that. The ghost spam, actually, this type of traffic never visits your site. It's actually a hit that's sent through something called the measurement protocol, which sends information directly to Google Analytics servers without ever visiting your site. So we don't want this information to appear in our reports because, again, it skews data and it means we're making marketing decisions on the wrong things. So what John's going to show you is how to exclude some of this traffic using an include filter, which is just a slight variation on what we looked at previously.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Scott. So an include filter works by basically saying only include this criteria, nothing else. It's very powerful and it can do a lot of damage. So Scott's been referring to ghost spam, and we've got some data here that can actually show you exactly what that looks like. Now, there is a report in Google Analytics called the Network Report. Buried a little bit deeper in that report is the host name report, and I'm just going to show you where that is. It's just right there in the Network Report, buried right down there, that little link. Now, if you click on this, and note we've got a date range set for about a year, so we've got a high volume of high range of traffic to look at. If you start scrolling down, you're going to see a few interesting what look like referrals from different hostname domains. Now, if we actually check out this one, which has sent 63 sessions, we're going to actually find out where this traffic is coming from. So what we're going to do here, just going to move this out of the way a little bit, open a new tab up. So when we open this, we see it's not actually the site that was listed, but it redirects to something that looks very spammy.
And intimidating.
And a little bit intimidating. Need I say more? That's what these ghost spammers are after. They want Google Analytics owners and users to click on their links, and they get paid for traffic, or they harvest personal identifiable information from you, or they put malicious scripts on your PC, all that kind of nice stuff. So now that you're aware of this, you've probably already jumped to the conclusion this is not traffic that you should want in your account, and we're now going to go through the steps to actually remove that. Now, what you're also going to see here is the actual legitimate traffic, and those domains that have our GA code on are what should appear here. Bear in mind, if someone scrapes your website and they scrape your GA codes, they're also going to be sending hostname hits into GA, and you don't want those either. Yeah. So this is your opportunity to say, I know exactly where my GA code should be, and these are the domains where it resides, and you can create an include filter that says, I only want that data. By putting this into your GA account, you block all the rubbish and you take care of the problem. It's very simple. It sounds scary. It's very simple, and we're going to go through that process now. Yeah. I'm just going to copy the subdomain, which is our live website here.
Yeah, so the goal here is when we get into this report in future, once this is applied successfully, we should only ever see the places where we know we put our analytics code. That's the end goal.
Okay, I'm just going to refresh this page because it hasn't picked up our changes that we made. And now it has. And again, this is always going to be applied to your test view. You always want to be cautious. It's easy to just drop in or fall asleep when you're on your master, and that's where problems occur. So we're just going to drop into the filter section on the test view. You can see the previously set up exclude filter. We're going to add the new filter, and we're going to basically give it a good label. That means we'll understand it clearly. So in this instance, it's include I've drawn a blank here.
Hostname.
Hostname, and then we're going to use paste, and then we're going to put only in caps.
That's pretty good.
So there we go. We know exactly what that means. We only need to look at it for a brief second to get it. Okay. Now, in terms of the filter type, we're going to use a custom filter. Don't be scared by this. Just click on custom. And the key point to note is it defaults to exclude. And this gets loads of people. I've seen this misconfigured lots of times. Click custom, and they don't realize that they're on exclude, and they set everything up, and it's wrong. So head down to include and make sure you select that. Now we're going to select the field. And you can see host name is available. That's exactly what we're going to use. Select the host name. And the filter pattern, we're going to paste in our subdomain. Now, Scott, I think you mentioned to me earlier what we might do if we want to include, say, someone else that had got GA tracking.
So sometimes you guys out there you might put your analytics code on your own site, but you also might be tracking from maybe a third-party site. So for maybe video tracking like Wistia or YouTube or a platform like that. So John's going to show you, if you want to track traffic to more than one host name, how you can do that in this filter.
Perfect. Okay, in some of these fields in GA and include filters, you can use what's called regex, which is a machine language, which is understood by machines. And we use what are effectively called operators to tell the machines what to include. And in this instance, I'm going to cut to the chase. I don't want to get too complicated with this. If we want to say the subdomain, which we've already put in, or another domain, we can just use the pipe symbol.
Let's use site visibility. Let's say, for example, we know we've entered our Google Analytics code on visibiz.com and then also on sitevisibility.com. This is how you would make sure that both host names are included. As simple as that.
That is it. So if you've got your GA tracking on both those subdomains, they are now going to be included in your GA. So all we need to do finally is save this, make sure we're on the test view. Yes, we are. Save this, and we are good to go. There's one last little thing that I want to point out about include filters. They should always be the first filter. And there's a little setting here called assign filter order, and that's what you want to click on. And you just want to make sure that include host name goes to the very top of your list. Click save, and you're done.
And so with referral spam, can you just give the guys some tips on where they can go to download filters? Or
yeah, so referral spam, this is the visits that are actually bona fide visits sent by websites.
So these are real visits. These are bots and spiders actually accessing your website.
So unlike ghost referrers, these are quite visible in your referral report. This can be a little bit of a shock to site owners when they think they've been getting quite a bit of traffic. And you jump into your referral traffic report and you start to see these guys, traffic to cache.xyz, getfreesocialtraffic.com.
So we were laughing yesterday about this when we were looking at this, because let's say, for example, you don't jump into analytics very often, you're not familiar with the platform. You might jump in and see that you've got nearly 1,500 sessions and think, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
But actually, when you jump into the detail, it's all rubbish data, and this is not real. Well, these are visits, but visits from bots and spiders, not real people.
Yeah.
And so this just highlights just how many sessions you can get without actually making any effort or doing anything, and actually misinterpret the data in your analytics account. And so John's just going to show you how to exclude this stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, Scott, you're bang on. This just kills your data accuracy stone dead. The smaller you are, the worse it gets. In fact, so if you're a one-person operation, this is absolutely lethal.
Yep.
Hopefully, by the end of this webinar, you're going to be fully equipped to ensure that you are looking at genuine traffic, and it's just such a nice feeling. So, okay, how we can deal with this? It's going to be exclude filters again. We're going to use exclude filters. There is a very useful resource that's been set up by Google Analytics guru Simo Ahava. We're going to jump into that.
We love this.
And this is effectively a big list of loads of referral sites that are sending junk, which has been collated. And you can initialize this on your site, and that's exactly what we're going to do now.
So all this is there's two platforms there, LoneGoat and Analytics Canvas, and they curate a number of the known spam traffic sources. And SimoAb has created this kind of interface here that allows us to access both pools of data and then apply and exclude those data sources from our analytics accounts, which is excellent. It's a real time-saving measure.
Yeah, and there's always one exception to the rule, and ordinarily we'd say, yeah, you apply this to your test view, but we 100% trust the configuration settings of this.
Yep.
I am going to apply it to the test view in this instance, but if you did want to apply it straight to your master view, we would have no problems recommending that either.
Yeah, whilst you're getting familiar with filters, you might want to, just as an example, experiment on your test view and just see how it all works. Just if you're kind of lacking in confidence or you just want to build your confidence. But generally, when it comes to trusted sources and integrations, there are occasions where we might apply things straight to the master view. It is rare, but there are occasions.
Okay, so I'm just going to click the Create and Apply Filters button, and off we go. These filters are being auto-generated and applied to our test view for the website. And I think last time I looked, there were 26. I don't know if it's been updated lately.
It doesn't take too long.
It doesn't take long at all. You know, there's not even time really to go and get a coffee. So let's see how we're doing here. Last couple. Bang,
yep.
That's done. So now if we jump back into our settings, just make sure we're on the test view. Just refresh this page. Okay, let's get back into our test view. We're going to talk about the bot checkbox as well in the view settings, Scott.
Yep, so we'll move on now to looking at, in a similar way that we just looked at curated resources from third parties, Google actually collects its own pool of known bots and spiders and allows you to filter them directly within analytics. And it's a little button within the admin section that a lot of people miss. So we're going to move on to that in a second. John's just, what we're highlighting on screen right now is that all those filters we just applied are actually in our account and are being applied now. So we won't touch more on that. But John, if you could just show people where to access the bot filtering button that's within analytics.
Sure.
So a lot of people miss this.
So yeah, this is tucked away in your view settings, and you know we call this is like a basic GA setup, but you'd be surprised even the big guns get this wrong. And although it may be a sort of basic introduction to analytics, if you get these little things wrong in your foundation stage, they lead to nasty data corruption issues later on that you definitely don't want. So you know, don't think this is like you're taking baby steps. These are very important steps in our book anyway for getting your GA set up right as a foundation to moving off into proper data analysis. Okay, so within the view settings, if you scroll down, you're going to see this little checkbox here called bot filtering. So this one you want to basically make sure is enabled. So just check it, click save. You've now pipelined in Google's own list, own database of known spam referrals, which will not be coming to your account. That is as simple as that.
Excellent. Okay, so we've talked a lot now about excluding and data accuracy. So to make sure that any data coming into your account is you're able to make marketing decisions from it. You have a confidence in your data. Now, what we're going to move on to next in the next couple of sections is looking at ways to kind of automate some of the analysis and to gain some insights without very much effort at all. And we're going to start off by looking at diagnostic messages. So diagnostic messages are featured in the top right-hand corner of our analytics account. And they're automated alerts from Google about errors or maybe just prompts about your analytics account of things they think you might want to look at. And actually, aside from just analytics data, and there are notifications about analytics configurations. They recently introduced notifications to webmasters where they think a site may have been hacked. So it's really worth keeping your eye on. And John's just going to talk through how they look and what you can do with these messages.
Yeah, I really love this feature. Google have improved this hugely in the last year, and now it's the first thing I check whenever I open a GA account.
Yeah, don't ignore them, basically.
It is slightly hidden in terms of it's in the top right. It's this little bell here. Now, if you've got no notifications, there will be no bubble. Notice there's an amber color 1 on there, which means there's one amber notification to look at. The whole setup is color configured. So if you have a red one, that's a critical issue. You need to get onto that immediately. If you've got amber, It needs your attention. You should certainly look at it. And blue are generally information-only issues. Okay, so let's just click on it, and that will open up the notifications window. Now it's saying we've got redundant views. Obviously, we've configured the account now for best practice, Google best practice. But it may happen that there are single properties that have 15, 20 views, excessive amounts of views, which makes management difficult. So it's an automated message that's just picked up we've got more than a single view, and it's just kind of telling us to go and have a look. Now, what I really like about this, say that you'd already made some changes, you can check again, and this will run the algorithm again on your site and will report back. If, like in this instance, which is definitely the case, this is not a relevant message and we don't want to see it, we can click ignore. We'll come back to that in a sec. If you're unsure about the content of the message and what it means, and this is my favorite bit of all, you can click details and you will get a much more comprehensive piece of information about what the issue is in great detail, granular detail. Absolutely love that. So familiarize yourself with looking at these notifications and make this the first port of call whenever you open the reporting of your view. So yeah, we can basically ignore this in this instance, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to click on that, and we don't need to see that ever again, so we're just going to click all time, and that has now been archived. You'll see archive notifications appear below. You can see it's set to ignored. You can bring it back. You can look at the information again. We've got another informational one, see the blue icon there about tag assistant recordings, and guess what? That's our bonus section that we're going to come to right at the very end, so we're not going to touch on that any further. But that, in a nutshell, is analytics notifications, a great feature.
Excellent. What we're going to move on to next, custom alerts. So custom alerts in Google Analytics allows you to semi-automate some of your insights and analysis. It could be used both as a proactive measure to help you understand things going on about your website that you might not be aware of, but also as a safeguarding measure. So you can set up alerts to notify you, say, for example, when traffic's really low or lower than the day before. We typically set up for clients traffic, revenue, goal, and user engagement related custom alerts. And today we're just going to introduce you to some basic traffic ones. The other good thing about custom alerts is that you don't have to go into analytics. Once you set them up, you can set it to ping you an email when the criteria that you've specified in alerts has been met. So yeah, really good for safeguarding, really good for being proactive and keeping on top of your account. And John's going to show you some basic traffic custom alerts and how you can configure them.
Yeah, these are working okay these days, the old custom alerts.
Oh, we actually had a problem this week with our custom alerts working, but I haven't got to the bottom of that yet. But do set them up. Don't let that stop you.
Okay, right, perfect. So as usual, we're just going to get started on the test view. So jump into the admin settings, and if you scroll down in your view column, you will see somewhere down near the bottom custom alerts. So we're going to jump in there, and I invariably do find that this is the situation on a lot of client accounts. So let's jump in and get this set up so that we can, you're not going to be able to look at your GA every day. No one can, or very few people can unless you're an analyst. If you're a small business, this is key. It's going to warn you whenever something significant happens as long as you get it configured. So what we're going to do is set a new alert, and we're going to call this all traffic is less than 1 session. Okay, so what's this about then? This is about if something bad happens to your site, resulting in you getting no traffic.
This is the first alert we'd recommend you set up as a safeguarding measure, so you can track when your site traffic is going down. That often happens for a number of different reasons. Sometimes it can be genuine that your site has lost traffic for a reason, or sometimes it can actually alert you to when your analytics code has maybe been dropped off the page. Maybe you've been through a development change and forgotten to add analytics code back on. That kind of thing, it can prevent it happening.
Yeah, we generally run a tracking coverage report to make sure that the tracking code is on every page. This is a bit outside of the scope of this webinar, but maybe we'll include it in a future discussion. So it's very important that you make sure all your pages have the tagging on. Okay, back to business. So here, let's run through the sections. You can apply it to the test view and other views, and then you'll have options for whatever views you've got connected to your account to apply that to. I recommend you set these up in the views rather than set one up and then apply it to another view, because if it gets deleted from a view at some point, it will get deleted across all
it's a good
the
tip.
views it's been set to. Now, the period is usually a day. That's the one we use. Haven't had much call for anything else than that. And the key point is that you click this button here so that it emails. It's going to email the account you're signed into. You can also send it to other key people, your marketing team, your developer, your SEO agency, PPC agency, etc. Scott loves this little feature. That you can actually...
we don't actually use this too often because we're usually managing on behalf of our clients, so we don't get pinged text messages about their accounts. But maybe you're a smaller business, or maybe it's just you that accesses analytics for your company. Definitely set up the mobile phone features to receive text about the alerts.
Yeah, and this, it's almost like Google anticipate that this is the alert you're going to set, because everything in these alert conditions is pretty much set up exactly as you want it. The only thing that you need to add is the number, and that's going to be 1. And then you click Save Alert. And basically, Analytics is now scanning the account. If there's any situation where you have less than one session in a 24-hour period, the alert will be triggered. And that is, in a nutshell, custom alerts.
Yeah, I'm going to, John, could you just show people, there's also a feature within the alert section of Google Analytics where it's actually automated alerts. Behind the scenes, Google Analytics will scan your account and start to surface some of the insights into what's happening, and they're called intelligence events. So
yeah, we won't have any on here, I think, because this website's been pretty dead for about 2 years, apart from spam referral
if we
traffic.
just show the section maybe where they can find them.
Yeah, let's jump in there. So get into the master view, and if we go back into reporting, now it's called intelligence events, and Scott's right. You don't get notified about these, but you definitely want to be aware of this this setting. Just jump into the overview.
Now, for sites that kind of got a bit more active engagement, obviously we're using a demo account today, but you'll see alerts in here from Google about what's happening. That's things that you haven't configured. So jump in there. I'd recommend on a weekly basis to see what's happening that you may not be aware of.
Yeah, it's a really powerful feature. Very much overlooked by a lot of people. Yeah, perfect.
We're going to move on next to custom reports. So sometimes in analytics, you'll find yourself looking at specific segments or views of data on a regular basis. You'll often find yourself drilling down or trying to drilling down into specific dimensions or specifying specific metrics. And it can be quite tiresome to keep replicating that every day or every week. And so custom reports allow you to build a snapshot of that data and allow a greater level of granularity that enables you to tie in reporting with your KPIs. So I really like this feature. I recommend that you go and set one of these up to tie in with whatever KPIs, whatever your key metrics are. And John's going to show you how to do it. Just a separate note, and John's also going to talk through this, is that you don't have to get started from scratch. There's something called the Analytics Solutions Gallery, where analytics users have already built custom reports for very similar scenarios to what you'll probably be experiencing or needing a report for. And so you can add the reports from the custom reports gallery straight into your analytics account. And John's going to show you how to do that.
Perfect, thank you. So first of all, I just wanted to show you where you'll find these reports, because they're not actually in reporting, confusingly. They are under customization.
Yeah, it's quite confusing, actually.
Yeah, that's, I'm sure that will get tidied up at some point. So there you go. That's where you're going to find them. We've got one in there, and I'm going to jump straight back to what Scott was talking about, and Solutions Gallery. And I found this report, which we've already imported, called Hour of the Day. Now, as Scott said, with a custom report, there's going to be things that you want to know about on your site that are not standard reports in GA, and that means you're going to have to configure them yourself. So if we wanted to get this Hour of the Day report, and this report basically shows us the sessions on the site by the hour of the day, literally 1 to 24 hours. So we can get a sense of when the main traffic periods are on a daily basis. So to get this in, all we need to do is click this little import button here. And then GA is going to ask us to select the view we want to apply it to. So we're going to find our VisiBiz view. There it is. So whichever one it would be, say the master, we just click on that and then click create. And as they say, here's one I made earlier. So here's the actual report itself. So let's click on that. And we can find out when all the spam traffic's been hitting our site. And we see that actually it's 7 o'clock is peak time. So that's an insight that you just couldn't get from standard reports.
Yeah, so custom reports. The two key takeaways from this are, well, I'm going to actually make 3 key takeaways. 1, go and use the solutions gallery. 2, just know if you're ever sitting in analytics and you're thinking, well, how do I combine this dimension or this metric together? Usually the answer is custom reports. And the third thing is always set one up to tie in with your KPIs or whatever your high level views are, because you can automate them. John will just show you some of this, but you can automate custom reports to email you at certain times of the month, which is great if you want to automate some of your reporting via analytics. Maybe you don't have a third party tool to report from. So if you could just hover over.
Yeah, so the first point is the customization. You just click edit. Don't be daunted by all these settings. These are just the metrics in blue and the dimensions in green, and you can fiddle around with this. You can play with it. You can create copies of the report. So
the other important note actually is that you cannot do any harm by setting up custom report. You can only experiment with metrics and dimensions and just play around, have fun with it.
Exactly that. Get in there and have a fiddle. You can have filters if you just want to look at a channel. So you want to look at organic traffic or just PPC. You can do that there. It's really dead easy. It just looks a bit intimidating. Yeah. Once you get involved with it, you find it's quite straightforward.
And that's why we also recommend downloading a pre-existing one from the gallery first, because you can even if you add like this hour of day one that someone's already built, you can configure one that's already been built. So the information is there for you to download and experiment with.
Yeah, perfect foundation.
Yep.
So if you want to share this, you've got an email option. This is great. So you can send it to other people. You can really configure this once, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, which days you want it to go out on, how long it's going to be active for. And once you set that up, you can manage and you can add and remove people from within GA's interface as well. So even if you get it wrong, you can come back into it and edit it. Really nice feature that. If you want information immediately, we often find that we need this in CSV for Excel because we're doing additional analysis. You can do that. If you just want it in Excel to send to someone, you can do that. If you're doing Google Sheets, working collaboratively, you can do that. Yeah. If you need, for a report for a committee or a business meeting like the CEOs, you can do a PDF and bang, they've got it straight away. So yeah, we'll get to add to dashboard in a second or two. A quick tip here, shortcut, this is fantastic. Once you've set up a report you really like, if you click shortcut, click OK, you get these shortcuts in your actual main reporting left-hand column. So if I want to come straight back to that with all the settings I've made, like the date ranges and everything, I just click on that and it's going to come back exactly as I left it. So that is a really powerful feature. Thank you, Scott.
Yep. So what we're going to move on to next is custom dashboards. Now, custom reports and custom dashboards do differ, and this is how I'd recommend using custom dashboards. Custom dashboards provide snapshots of information that are useful for different user case scenarios. So sometimes, particularly in bigger businesses, you may, for example, have an SEO team, a social media team, and your chief executives. And I'd recommend setting up dashboards for all of those different users so they can quickly get an understanding of the metrics that matter most to them. So this is where dashboards can enable you to provide a high-level view of information. Again, the thing that dashboards and custom reports have in common is that you can also import dashboards from the analytics solutions gallery. So you can do exactly the same procedure that we just went through, but this time for dashboards. See what people have already got configured and then edit and customize them yourself. And John's obviously going to talk through in a second just about how you set them up and reference the analytics gallery again. But I'd recommend, following on from the webinar today, is that you set up a mobile dashboard. We're living in a mobile-first world, and it's really good if you can start getting snapshots of your mobile audience and how they're interacting with your website. So there's a quick challenge there. Go away and experiment with setting up a mobile dashboard for your company.
Perfect. So we're going to go back into, I think we're in the master view for these dashboards, but there's a test view. And we're going to go back to Solutions Gallery, and this time we're looking at a dashboard. And this is an SEO dashboard. So we're going to import this into our test view. So we're going to select our view. Well, which one is it? It's going to be that one. So that comes in. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So what this is looking at, this is about SEO traffic and keywords. We've got no data because the date range is very recent. Let's just change that.
Move our screen.
Move our little screen out of the way.
Oh, it's because I think you may be in test.
Oh, we're on the test view. Yeah, of course we are. This okay. Let's get back into the master view and we'll apply it to the master view.
There we go.
There we go. So there's the data.
So this, whilst John's doing this, if for example let's say you're an SEO analyst in a company, or you're working in an SEO team, this SEO dashboard, you exclude all the other data about your account. You're just getting the specific SEO information that you require. Sometimes you can use this proactively, and sometimes it can just be used as a quick reporting or sense checking measure each week.
I'm just laughing because I'm looking at the spam junk that's been sent in. Some people are having a real laugh with this the spam data. But yeah, and if you look down, you can see there's lots of spam information coming in. But yeah, if you were actively trading and you were getting significant organic traffic, this would be a really great report and would take you quite a considerable amount of time to configure yourself.
Yep.
So that's the sort of power of custom dashboards, really.
Excellent. And the last thing from an administration perspective that we're going to look at, and it's really a sense checking measure, is user permissions. So user permissions are essentially who's got access to your analytics account. It works at a cascading level. So what I mean by that is that if you allow someone to have full access at an account level for your Google Analytics account, that will mean they have access to all of your properties and views within that account. Now, if you just gave someone access to a specific view, they don't get access to the property and account. So keep that in mind. It's definitely a sense checking measure. It can be really useful, particularly if you're working in companies where people are leaving and you don't want old members of staff to have access to your analytics data. Or maybe you've worked with an old web development agency or digital marketing company, all those reasons. And we recommend checking this at least on a monthly basis. And John's just going to show you where to look for this.
Yeah. So as Scott said, the access permissions, it's really important you get a handle on this. Typically for us, if we're doing, say, a GA audit for a client, we'd expect to have account level, full access to account level to see everything we need to see. But maybe, if we were a prospective agency with a client, we maybe just give them view settings to the master view, because that's all we need to really look at to get a sense of what's going on with SEO traffic or PPC traffic or social traffic, etc. So, typically a client would add us here. So in terms of the user management structure, if we jump into this bottom view and we have a look at it, what we'll find is you've got this set of different permissions that you can set, and it's really straightforward. Read and analyze means exactly that. You can see stuff, but you can't edit or share it. Collaborate means you can read it and analyze it, and you can also share it. Edit means you can make changes to anything that you have access to. And the big administrator account is manage users, which means you can do pretty much everything on that view. Bearing in mind this is view level, it's only going to be that view. If this was account level, it would be everything on the account. If it was property level, it would be everything on that property and all the views under it.
Yep.
Sorry. You can add permissions here. Always set this to notify people by email, and then you decide, we're going to set them for whichever permission level is appropriate. You just add, and that's what happens.
Perfect. Okay, so the next section that we're going to look at is around goal verifications. So if you think about the journey that we've been on in the webinar so far, we've showed you how to exclude traffic, then a bit about how to automate some of the analysis and reporting. And now we're going to talk about how to debug whether certain stuff's working or not. We're not going to look extensively at goal configuration today. We may do that separately at another point. But there's a quick way in which you can check whether or not the goals you have configured in your analytics account are likely to be converting or likely to be misconfigured. Now, generally, when you're setting up goals in analytics, you typically expect to see conversions within the last week, because anything that you've set up as a primary goal, so whether it's a download or a transaction, most businesses would hope to see those people converting in a weekly period. So what John's going to show you is how to check different goals and whether they've converted in the last week. And this is an indicator of whether you need to look at your configuration in more detail.
Perfect, thanks Scott. So goals are a vital component of GA and setting up correctly to measure your website performance. We've created a very simplistic one just to look at visits to the contact page and just to show you how you can easily verify the goal. So once you've got a goal set up, and usually this is going to be in the test view, you just click on it and we can see the configuration of the goal here. So it's a destination-based goal and it's the contact page, and if we continue, we'll see that the goal details will tell us that a visit to the contact page equals to the contact page is going to trigger the goal. Now the setting that Scott's talking about is this verify this goal. So all you need to do, once you've got your goal set up and you've got data running for a few days, got some data in there, is click verify this goal, and we can see that it's giving us a percentage conversion rate. Now, if you don't see a percentage conversion rate, that could be cause for concern that you haven't configured the goal correctly and you probably want to do some more testing. Excellent.
Now, that's seamless because more testing is what we're going to look at next. So our kind of bonus feature as part of this guide, and this is getting onto intermediate to advanced usage, but is Tag Assistant recordings. Now, Google Tag Assistant is a free Chrome extension that allows you to replicate a user journey on your website, and then it will show you how that data would report back into your Google Analytics account if it were a real user. So it's a full kind of debugging tool, and it allows you to sense check your configuration, whether there are any errors, whether you've got maybe inflated sessions, whether your goal configurations are working accurately. I love this tool. I think it's the best analytics tool that's kind of, well, definitely that Google have released, and my favorite analytics tool overall. And what John's going to show you is just a little bit about how to use that tool.
Perfect. So to get the tool set up, I'm just going to intro that because people might not know. It is a Chrome extension, which means you need to use Chrome to get this to work. There's two extensions you need to install. It's Google Tag Assistant, which is that one there. You can see the little green label there. And there's also, I recommend you install this second extension called GA Debug. And that will provide you an even more granular level of detail in Google Tag Assistant. The two kind of join together really nicely. I think, as Scott said, we're going to keep it basic because
we're going to keep it to Tag Assistant recordings today. Yeah.
But essentially, what you can first of all do straight away is you can see there's a color coding going on with the Tag Assistant label, and that's great. It tells you in color code whether you've got good information, green, whether you've got bad stuff going on, red, whether you've got stuff that you need to look into more detail in, amber, or whether there's some minor kind of stuff just to be aware of, blue. So we can see here we've got green tags showing. If we click that open, it tells us what our UA tracking code is, and it also shows us that we're using Google Tag Manager. The setting that we're going to use today is the record feature. Down the bottom, this blue button is the record feature, and we're going to actually record some of our sessions and show you what that looks like in Google Tag Assistant. So let's go. Be mindful, there's this tab here. If you've got browser windows that open on your website into separate tabs, make sure that that is enabled, and those will also get tracked and reported on. Top tip. Okay, so we're going to go to the home page.
So all we're doing here is just replicating just a general, you can mix this up, you can replicate a journey that you would expect users to take, though there is no typical user journey as such. Or you can just click around on all the different elements of your site and just see if you can break your analytics code, and that's ultimately what we're looking to do, to make sense, check that everything's working.
Yeah. So we're going to, we can see that the red dot appears on the label to show that it's actually recording. We're going to jump onto the portfolio page. And then we're finally going to hit the contact page.
We're going to fill this one in?
No, I think we'll leave it there because it'll be good to have some questions just at the end.
Okay.
So let's basically stop the recording, and then we're going to click on this button, which is show the full report. If we wanted to carry on, we could, but we're not going to. We're going to show the full report to show everyone what it looks like. So you've got two sections. You've got the Tag Assistant report and the Google Analytics report. What you're looking for in the recording summary is to see your tracking code, which is that one. So we're going to click on that one.
Yeah, so to break this down just quickly, is the left-hand side, you'll get the chance to configure what kind of tags you're actually looking at. The top-level navigation at the top of the page allows you, and we'll look at the other one in a second, we're currently on Tag Assistant Report. So this is the more granular technical detail about the stuff that's going on behind the scenes. The Google Analytics report, which we'll just click on in just a second, that will show us how this user journey would have looked in our Google Analytics account. So first you have to specify the view, and then John's going to click OK, and I'll let John crack on from here.
Perfect. So this is your recording summary. This is the key information that tells you whether things are working correctly or whether they're not working correctly. So pay big attention to the alerts section. No alerts found is great news. Fantastic. Then head into the view summary. Look at your audience. We were one visit. Was there one session recorded? Look out for any inflation there. That could be an indication of possible double tracking issues or other misconfiguration. It gives you the acquisition source. So where did we come from? We came straight in today. We typed in the URLs and we were there. And then it shows you details of the behavior, the pages that were visited. Yes, we visited those 3 pages. One session was recorded. And then finally, it gives you details of conversions. This is applicable to, it will show you events, custom dimensions, goals, e-commerce transaction information. I mean, this tool is just a gold mine and the top resource in our book, for sort of debugging your GA setup.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can see that we've got a goal recorded there, and you can see that there's a green tick.
Yep. The other point I'd make as well is the same as we were looking before, in that you can experiment with this tool and it doesn't affect any data in your account. So just go experiment with it, that you can't do any harm by looking at the data.
And the final piece to this, the really good news is that you can save this. Oh, yeah. So you can save the actual file, and anyone else who's using Tag Assistant can then upload it and look at it. Or if you want to review it later for historic analysis, you can do that. Yeah, I mean, the help is fantastic. I recommend that you dig into that. That's pretty much it at a very basic level. I think this is one that we'll want to pick up and do.
Yeah, Tag Assistant can be used for so much. Just as to summarise some of that, and that we use it for just when we're adding new goals onto our website. We'll sometimes test they're configured correctly. If someone switches from classic analytics to universal, if someone goes through a web development change or they migrate their website, we use Tag Assistant for all these different scenarios to check whether stuff is still in place or whether it's broken. So, yep, install Tag Assistant recordings and enjoy experimenting with it.
Great talk.
Okay, so we are wrapped up in terms of our steps from our webinar today. We are going to have, you're going to have the opportunity to ask any questions. So we're just going to jump into the chat function of our webinar.
Just hand over the keyboard to screen.
Give me a second whilst I see if there are any questions. So it doesn't look like we've got any questions here. In which case, if you do have any questions, maybe you're viewing this webinar at a later date, you can contact us. So you can find me, scott.colnut@sitevisibility.com, or I'm at Scott Colnut on Twitter. And John?
Yeah, I'm at John, that's Jon Hibbett, Hibbitt. That's me on Twitter. Similar on LinkedIn. And don't forget, you can reach out to Site Visibility.
Yep, you can reach out at Site Visibility.
Yeah.
You can download the guide. So the guide that kind of is in conjunction with this webinar today can be downloaded from our website. We'll send out the link afterwards. So yeah, feel free to follow up with any questions. We'd love to see kind of the dashboards and reports that you've been creating and help you with any issues or any questions you might have. Also, just a quick plug for MeasureFest. It's a sister event of ours. If you go to measurefest.com, it's a great opportunity to learn about all things analytics. It's on 18th of November in London. And so, yeah, go to measurefest.com for all the details. That's all from us today. So I just want to thank you very much for those who attended, and thanks if you've viewed this webinar at a later date.
Thank you. Thank you very much.